it's Christian Buckley back at ESPC25 in Dublin and hanging out with Thomas. It's like we've known each other for like over a decade. I don't even know anymore. The years just it's been over a
decade for sure. Yeah.
So you had a session this year at the conference. What was the topic of this one?
A little bit unusual for me. I was put in the adoption track, I think the first time in my life. The session was about how we can do measurement and reporting on Copilot usage, but we are in Europe with a GDPR perspective.
Oh yeah.
So ethical reporting was the marketing clickbait version of the title.
That's an interesting space. Well, everybody wants to know that data. They want to be able to go in and understand, we've added this additional cost, licensing cost, or we're getting more out of it. So what's kind of the gist of the message? What are the takeaways that people...
We like to start from the back. And we see that in every Copilot project, there are two questions at some point in time. And one question is quite logical, it's the business question. Are we going to doing relicensing in 12 months? Yep. So every CFO wants to know, okay, was it a success? Do we keep that investment up? That's the one kind of question. And the other question, if let's say the first one is answered, yes, it's good. What's the next cohort? What's the next 250 people that we're going to give the license to? And to answer that question in a proper way so that you can really make a good argument and not saying like, yeah, it feels good. That's the challenge, to really have a good and solid case that is maybe more towards what's happening inside your own organization and less driven by some reporting or studies from a global perspective, more down to the earth, down to the grid, what's going on in your company.
Well, it's always the difference between the qualitative and the quantitative measurements.
Sure.
So people can say like, I like it more, I'm more engaged, I'm more active, but like what are the important metrics that are really important to track? And then we'll get into what you can actually do with some of the limitations.
The interesting part is that's not a new question, and we did some digging, and then you always have, as a consulting company, you have two options. You invent something new, some new framework, something streamlined to what's on the table, or you look outside the box, what's already there, and we found something that's almost as old as I am, the information success model from 1993. There's a new version from 2003, and that has like 6 or 7 dimensions that define if an information system really is a success. And you can apply that to Copilot because it's like information quality, system quality, service quality, and then it's use and intention to use and net benefits. And if you look at those dimensions and then make a couple of KPIs for Copilot, then you can look outside into roughly, I think, 1,000 scientific papers on that model, giving you ideas, and then you can apply those ideas, filter them for the business transformation that we all need to do to integrate AI in our day-to-day.
So couldn't you just dump all of those studies into SharePoint and then build an agent on the front end and ask it questions to know how you measure up against that?
For sure you can do that, and then you have the situation that you stand in front of your colleagues or a client, and then they ask you 2 questions, and then you realize that maybe not the smartest idea. I do that, to be honest, but more of like, okay, to learn quicker, to get the information, to get to the bottom.
Yep.
But I think you always need to translate it to your own business, your own ideas, and it's just learning and that kind of phase. And you can use AI to learn, of course.
So talking about GDPR and having those constraints, so what changes about that in your approach with clients that have that concern?
The thing with GDPR in the broader sense is, are we allowed to measure stuff in an automation world? And how are we going to set this up? I'm from the German-speaking region. I'm from Austria. We have really, really, really strong opinions about how are we using data to measure what people are doing. Do we want to make like a scoring system? No one wants that back home. Right. So we have a spectrum. We have a spectrum that starts with, okay, everyone is basically searching for the answers. Is it a financial success what we're doing? And we need to answer those questions. And the simplest form is a survey, where people basically can opt in. And then you have a couple of phenomena in how humans interact with new technology. The novelty effect, it's new, it's shiny. Oh, I like it more.
I was thinking of the human effect of people in answering surveys.
Yeah.
You have that added layer as well.
Yeah, and then how it trickles down after the initial flame of interest. And then also the effect that people are not dumb. They realize that if the CEO and the CFO speak in front of 1,000 people and say that's super important, then you have the effect that, okay, I want to be part of that norm and maybe fill it out not really honestly. And the other part, the other extreme is that you, using the right graph endpoints, you could potentially go in and look at every single prompt and do an analysis of the prompt, not in the sense of looking at the words used, more like how is the length, are you using context of M365, in which category does this prompt fall in sense of summarizing, translation, and then combining this information with maybe information from your Active Directory, looking at it like, okay, which department is strong in that, and adding another layer because everyone is doing training, so you can measure the impact of training on different cohorts as well, and everything anonymized, everything in the sense of, okay, people opt into that, and people can opt out and have the right to forget, with all that around to make it really like a proper solution where you end up with like a base data, and then you can use this base data to make a conclusion of how will this shape our company in the next 5 years or 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
So what are some mistakes that organizations are making with this data, or with this approach?
The first mistake I see happening a lot of time is this approach of let's do 1 or 2 webinar events, 1 training, and leave everyone alone. And it's like, okay, treat this transformation like a software update, where we just need to learn how, I don't know, Word does things now differently. It's not that simple. It's more complex, and it's complex or different type of complex for different groups of people in the company. So, and it also has different effects for people that really, really work a lot with email will have another impact given what Copilot can do in Outlook with people that maybe don't do that, or people that live in Excel. So different kind of personas that needs to be addressed in the learning path, and also in the, if you think about it, I think Copilot was released in March 23, I think, was the official date.
I think so.
How many updates did we get since there? So a one-off training, maybe not a good idea. So those 2 perspectives are super important. It's an investment, and you need to have a plan for longer than just 1 training and one course.
You know, that's not a small point that you landed on, because you know, how many changes are happening now? It's evergreen software.
Yeah.
It's even in the keynote this morning, you had Jeff Teeper talking about how is this trickle that's out. We've moved away from the 3-year cycle of the release of software.
Semester planning,
It's like every other day there's an announcement somewhere or that. And making sure that your people are on top of all those things, you have to adjust for that.
And also don't forget that the people in the companies, they also look outside. So you have announcements from other companies, what other competitors next to Microsoft are doing.
Right.
And that's confusing. Why is it working this? If I use it on my private phone, it's working that way. In the company, it's working that way. So you need to look at the whole thing and not only focusing like small-minded on one part.
Well, it's, I think, interesting that people need to understand how the technology works, so that they know, because often the comparison I hear about is to public AI tools and how fast they are and responsive they are, but they don't have the ties in, like through, you know, Work IQ now, you know, to be able to go and look at and understand, you know, the relationship to all of the other contact and conversations that are happening in an organization. So it's just vastly different.
One question, how, in the past decade, how often did you hear the question, why is the Microsoft or SharePoint search different from Google? It's the same thing all over again.
It is that. Again, we're hearing the comment again, and I know that Microsoft does not like this question, but it's the which tool do I use when kind of question. But customers want to know.
Of course.
What to go and do. Well, final question for you. So for organizations that are looking to kind of pursue this path, they're going through that digital transformation, they're gathering data, they, you know, maybe some divisions of their international company have GDPR restrictions. Like, what advice do you give for how to get started? Where should people start?
I think they should start with the KPI dashboard, or the answers they want to get from the data first. I see a lot of mistake done or materialize in a way like people start to, what can we measure? Measure everything. I would like to start like, okay, what are the business questions that we need answers for? And from then derive KPIs, and then look how to measure. And then, as you mentioned already, think about that there's different regulations, different culture, corporate culture, a social culture in a country, how people react to being measured.
It's almost as if you need to have a plan before you start.
Yeah, would make sense in life, doesn't it?
To me,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, I think so.
Sometimes it's fun just to get in the car and start driving, but
True,
generally
true.
you want to have an idea of where you're trying to go.
Sometimes it's smarter to start thinking, yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and
Pleasure.
enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of the event.
Thank you, Christian.